Terry got lots of energy.
Thank you, Dave. uh, Boy, this, meeting through Zoom has gotten to be all too common, I tell you. It
Yeah.
used to be something else, but now it's standard procedure.
Sure. All right, Terry. We have about 14 people on. Probably a couple more will trickle in.
Sure.
Why don't we turn it over to you and let's get started?
Good. And I know we do have a few groups that are meeting together and stuff, so I don't know, they might have it on the big screen, but I'd like to welcome everybody to our business success lunch hour. And this is a partnership between Juneau County Economic Development Corporation and UW-Stout Manufacturing Outreach Center. And what we're doing, it's somewhat of a reflection over the past year as we went through the COVID-19 pandemic, really a historic time. And it had such a big impact, not only on our businesses, but in trends that have accelerated. The trend that we're going to talk about today was started actually before the COVID pandemic in automation, and it speeded things up because of the fact that we were really struggling to find employees for the manufacturing. But during the pandemic, other issues came to play, distancing, safety of workers, and those kind of things that again accelerated automation in manufacturing, in warehousing, food processing, all kinds of things. So it's really our pleasure today to have Ron Thomas and Bob Oliver from UW-Stout Manufacturing Outreach Center to join us. And of course, we're interviewing John Belmonte, the CEO of Mitotec in Necedah. So, John, we're very pleased to have you here today.
Oh, happy to be involved.
Great. Well, John, let's kick this off. Can you give us just a little history about Mitotec? I know the name is a little bit new. It used to be known as Necedah Screw Products out in Necedah, and now you're Mitotec. So if you can share a little bit about you and the changes that have gone on.
Yes, sir. Yep, back in 2018, we made the switch from Necedah Screw Machine Products to Mitotec Precision, just because it was a better indication of what we do as a high-tech precision machining operation. We have about 60 employees here in Necedah, and we are a family-owned company. We've been in business for nearly 60 years now, and been very successful with working making things that matter for, pretty much US-based customers that need to be sure that the products they get from their precision machining supplier are accurate and true.
Yeah, and I remember talking to you a little over a year ago when the confusion, everybody was trying to figure out, am I essential or am I non-essential? Can you tell us about that process, and were you essential?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We were essential. We didn't miss a beat. We worked extremely hard to keep people here and safe. And yeah, with the products that we make in the medical device arena, in other markets, we are definitely essential and remained extremely busy, have been extremely busy the last 12 months.
Great. And how did the pandemic affect you at Mitotec?
Oh boy. I think it really turned us into, like to say, making the parts that matter. When we were making devices that administer nitric oxide to premature babies, and now they can use it for lung rehabilitation for folks that have had COVID. I mean, it's really affected our business. We've grown. We grew 15% last year and expect to grow another nearly 20% again this year. Just the products that we're involved in are so vitally important.
And you know, during the COVID pandemic, talking to a number of our manufacturers, um, it was really interesting to find out that they made, maybe they didn't make the whole product, but they made little components like you did, John, that had a profound effect on doctoring and you know, all the things that we needed to do during the COVID pandemic. How could you share a little bit how your industry has been impacted? Because I know you're part of a bigger group of manufacturers also, John.
Right. The PMPA was the Precision Machine Products Association nationally. We make, like you say, components for other OEMs or other customers that are usually have the full product, like ventilators, for example, that were in high demand last summer and early fall. I know our industry stepped up and we're doing a lot of the components for ventilators and other, like I mentioned earlier, with, medications and delivery devices for medications. We're strongly involved in all that. And even some of the products we've been making for years, EpiPen components and things like that, continuing to do those types of things through a pandemic is it really increased, and need to be making sure that you're doing those things because they're expected.
Well, great. You know, I'm going to go off topic just for a second because it's been such a big issue, and it's actually going to be the topic of one of our, coming Zoomcast meetings. But how were you affected through the supply chain during the pandemic? We're hearing so much about how that supply chain was really disrupted, and it continues to be that way today.
Mm-hmm. We did have a spattering of some suppliers that did need to shut down because their facilities were running, employees were being sick and not coming to work, and maybe they weren't quite as diligent as we were here at Mitotec, and we struggled through it. We sometimes had to get alternative suppliers. We use a lot of heat treaters and platers and other subcontractors, so it definitely could affect us if those, and we did run into that a little bit. Now, though, it is a bigger issue is raw material supply, and the cost of raw material is really spiked up, and availability, materials that we used to get in weeks, we're now getting in months, and that's going to be a problem. And I don't know when that's going to get corrected quite yet. Hopefully soon.
Yeah. And thank you about that, John, and stuff. Now, it's my understanding that you've recently added some new automation. In fact, you've integrated automation into a number of parts of your manufacturing process. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure can. I got some of these. Yep. So obviously we're a full CNC machining operation. So the video I have up on the screen right now is an example of that. And I talk about automation. A lot of times it's inside the machine, inside the cabinet, when you have multi tools working on the part at the same time. I'm going to run the video here a little bit so you can kind of see that there's two or three things usually going on simultaneously when we're machining the part in each of the spindles. And so in my world, that's the start of automation. I mean, this is technology that's been out there 10 or 15 or 20 years even. It continues to improve and get faster. But this was the first step in automation for us, is getting more done in the single machine. So this is a full 2-inch diameter, full CNC lathe that has 3 turrets, and like I said, can really do a lot of things on a complex part.
How many parts
John?
are you doing, John?
What's that?
Machine? How many parts can you do in that machine at a time?
Well, it's working on one part. It's just working on both ends of it.
Okay.
So it's working on the left-hand side is the primary part, start of the part. And then as it gets cut off and transferred into the right-hand side, then, additional work is being done to the part.
Thank you.
Now, John, this machine here that you're showing, we always talk about, how many other machines it replaced or even operators of machines. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. It makes us much more efficient, makes it more accurate, quality is increased. You don't have human interaction handling the parts, transferring the parts from one chuck to the other. It's all automated, so accuracy is much improved. There's no downtime, there's no wait time, there's no building a pile of parts that will need another operation and staging them and waiting for the other machine. 20 years ago, this used to be done in 2 or 3 different machines and a lot of handling in between.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Dave.
I have a question. Does automation doing it within one machine affect the physical dimensions of the part? Do you have to kind of design it so that it can be made automatically?
Yeah, Dave's talking about the programming and stuff, John. Maybe you can share a little bit about even how you find the skill and stuff and people to program these machines.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. It's a different type of talent that you need to run machines like this than what manufacturers used to need, 20 or 30 years ago. It's smart manufacturing, basically. That's what we like to call it. Not doing the mundane, monotonous load, unload, and, that type of old school mechanical machining. This is much more automated. You need programmers. We need highly qualified quality technicians. So it really does step up our game of our employees, and it makes it more exciting and makes life much more challenging and interesting for our employees.
Yeah, and I remember, actually before the COVID pandemic, you were planning this machine, and one of the challenges you were facing at the time was a workforce shortage. And we know that, I think you said that this can replace up to 6 different machines or operators. John,
Yeah,
is that correct?
exactly. So the video I have up currently is an 8-spindle version of the machine we saw previously. And this is the machine, Terry, that can produce up to 5 times the quantity of parts that we used to produce even on the single spindle CNC lathes. So this is completely CNC. Every position has its independently programmed tooling that's finishing the part. And you can see when the turntable turns, it's moving the part to the next station and getting another process done. So yes, these are parts that we used to make, used to take a minute or a minute and a half to machine complete. We're now finishing them on this machine in less than 12 seconds per piece.
Wow. And so not only did this help with a workforce shortage or a talent gap, but also I imagine during the pandemic, you were able to operate with fewer people on the floor then?
Yep. So those 5 machines that this machine can make at a rate of 5 machines would sometimes at least have to have 3 separate operators, that to even run a small group of 5 machines, or even sometimes one-on-one. So 5 operators. We can now use 1 operator on this machine to produce, that 5 times multiple in quantity.
Wow. And so how is that changing your workforce? And again, this is what automation has done through the pandemic as it sped up because of that need. Does your workforce or new workforce going to look a little bit different?
It sure does. Again, you got to emphasize, you got to do a lot of the things in manufacturing that have come to be over the years, lean, 5S, 6S. You got to do all those things in order to become more efficient and be competitive in today's world, for sure.
Great. And John, could you share this automation that you're seeing in your industry and in manufacturing? What is the environment out there for the people that make these machines? Is there getting to be, more common more active? What are you seeing in the automation realm?
Yeah, I'm going to share here another version of some automation. It's a little bit more dedicated, but this is a machine that's kind of custom built. And this is stuff that's been around for 20 years, but getting it implemented in a smaller manufacturing company like ours is really, you got to have the engineering talent. You got to understand the processes in order to make the machines work the way that you want and to help design and develop them. So this is a machine that's, working on a single part. It takes longer to build this machine and to get it up and going, but once it's going, it makes parts very fast.
That's great. And then also, John, if you could share a little bit about the challenges you've had automating at your plant.
Yes, automation doesn't come, by itself without a lot of human intervention at the beginning and maintaining the automation. It's all very critical to what we need to do to keep things going. Here's an example of a robotic arm that we've used here. And then again, you got to get folks that understand how to program a robot and how to, present the part to the robot and what you want the robot to do. That's a different employee. It's a different, than what we hired 20 years ago.
In fact, I know we have a number of students that are watching as well. And when we talk about automation, a lot of times it means a human working right alongside an automated piece of equipment, right?
Yeah, it could be, for sure. Or you have a human that is, running several of these, keeping the robot loaded, doing the quality checks, recording the data from the quality checks. So this is an example again of another robot, loading and unloading a machine very similarly to what a human would do. Only this human now can run several other machines and keep them going and being more efficient, more cost competitive. Again, the element of accuracy is built in with the robot and things like that. So as
Excellent.
simple as doing, mimicking what a human does.
Great. Thanks, John.
Question. What kind of training and education do your employees have? Do they computer programming training and manufacturing engineering?
Yeah, I think Dave, it would be all of the above, basically. Yeah. But really, it doesn't require a 4-year degree to implement these tools. These are things that can be implemented, and even programming can be done in, with a short training course, even just a few weeks or a few months.
Right. And Bob, do you want to add anything to that since you're from the UW system? Or Ron, you want to jump in?
Ron, why don't you go first?
Ron, you're on mute.
Oh, working on it. Thanks, guys. So I really want to thank John for teeing that up perfectly. Cobot doesn't get carpal tunnel. It doesn't get tired of doing the same thing, and it can potentially run 24/7. So that's stuff that from the manufacturing outreach center that we're seeing a lot of workforce shortage. And one of the things we're trying to do is, John and Mitotec is very progressive. How do we help other manufacturers, small manufacturers, see these benefits? Because as you pointed out, the technology is getting more advanced and it's getting more cost effective, and there's a bigger base that makes it more attractive to small manufacturers. So I think the important thing is, to develop a plan. And if you don't have that expertise in-house, find somebody who does, so that you can take those other things John talked about, the lean manufacturing, the quality systems, and focus on finding automation that fits in the right places in your value stream, that doesn't make things worse for everybody, but actually makes the whole system better. And that's, what we had developed a manufacturing advantage technology forum.
Yeah.
so that we could start trying to just get that conversation going, because advanced manufacturing technology, Industry 4.0, they're all about breaking down barriers and connecting stuff that was in different silos. So you need to get the IT people and the OT people talking to each other so that you can start bringing that together and getting the benefits that the connected smart manufacturing technology offers.
So,
And Ron, I know during the pandemic, had you seen, I know it was a little hard to get out to different manufacturers and stuff like that, but do you think because of the pandemic and also because of the workforce shortage, you're seeing it become much more prevalent at a much faster speed, automation?
I'm hearing people ask about it a lot more and looking into it because as you already brought up, the pandemic kind of forced everybody to use digital tools more than they had. Similar to what John brought up, you know, online meeting tools have been around for 20 years, but we just never felt like a need to really adapt to them. But in the last year, we've had to. And that's opened the conversation to people thinking about, well, what are all the other things that we could be doing, you know, that we used to think we had to do this way, but we don't need to do anymore. One of the things that we had to do was kind of pivot to doing more digital delivery. So we have a discovery diagnostic system that we developed that's all virtual, that we can start to help have that conversation with companies to get them working on the directions they need to work on and finding the resources to help get them there. Because I think the other problem is now, many of you guys are probably so busy with orders and so short of workers, it's hard to lift your head to look around to see what's happening and take the time to make a plan with your team.
Good. Well, thanks, Ron. And Bob, great. And Bob, what do you have to add? What have you heard in the industry and stuff on automation?
the first thing I want to say is to reiterate what Ron said about the manufacturing automation technology forum that Ron holds. He holds that about once a month. Get a hold of Ron or myself or Terry if you want more information. I think people from Mitotec participate too. So any one of us can help you lead people to that if they want to participate in that. I was just at an event yesterday. I was reminded it was called Winning the War on Talent, and this stems from the fact that there's 9 million less people from the baby boomers to the Gen X, and if you look at the growth rates in the United States, it's not going to get any better. And then you add in the next generation, there's a whole new set of jobs they're going into, which Johnny alluded to, right? They need people that can program machines. They need people that can go in and actually develop a custom machine. So that's one part. And then I wanted to just touch on the supplier shortage. I mean, we're hearing supplier shortages in the automobile, electronic chip market. Plastics are becoming short because we don't have enough oil flowing. Corrugated material, believe it or not, with all the shipments on the internet, corrugated materials is really being strained, and we're actually hearing shortage of the pulp that makes the corrugated material. So you add in construction and everything else. So one other thing we do is we do help companies find suppliers if they ever need help. But I'd like to take this full circle back to John. John was nice enough to show a couple more slides, one on an automated inspection station, and now he's got one up on the people. I'd like to know how the automation is changing your world with respect to your people, John.
Right. No, I'm glad to talk to that. Like the screen says, it really, the culture of change really turns into excitement with the employees when they see the automation and what their effect is on it, their ability to train themselves up to areas that, in previous 30, 40 years ago in manufacturing, you wouldn't have the ability to do. And it's fast. it doesn't need years of on-the-job training to do it. You can take it as fast as you want, and we are seeing many examples of that within our employee group, young, old, and in between.
Now, John, you've been a part of Ron's manufacturing automation forums and stuff. Can you share what that's meant to you and stuff to be with your peers? And
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. Anytime we can get ideas from hear what other folks are doing, even around automation or around other conversations, it could be just as simple as, here's a simple way that we've learned how to work around an issue. Whenever, we're a small company, we like to take advantage of those opportunities and as many times as we can. And it's been awesome. You come away from those events with what you might not even expect you were going to get when you go to them. So that's what I've gotten from it.
Great. Now, John, I know you and your team are always thinking ahead. So what's beyond 2021?
Well, like I said, we're continuing to grow, and really the sky's the limit. But really, people are the limit at this point. Getting talented people. We're looking for people that are just willing to learn, want to be a part of the growth and advancement of manufacturing. We're looking for all those. You don't have to be an expert stepping into it. Manufacturers now are taking folks that are just got good abilities to learn and taking them and building on it. So going to the future, I see the medical device market strong in this country. There's a lot of product being moved back to manufacturing in this country that might have been offshore. And now we're seeing them back again because of the constraints that the pandemic has put on worldwide travel and things like that. So the future of manufacturing, the future of Mitotec Precision is strong.
And one other question, it's a little bit off of automation, but I know we saw a lot of innovation with communication. As far as your sales force, how did they operate?
Oh yeah, we tried to get a little creative there too. We tried to lunch and learn technique with some of our potential customers. We've gotten really good at targeting. That's the thing that our customer our sales team has learned is we need to make sure that we fit with our customers. If if they just need basic hardware or the bolts and nuts that you might think are common, they're not potentially really being built in this country anymore. So we've got to find those companies that need the more advanced critical components, the high quality, the accuracy, the deliveries on time without waiting for a ship to come into port and things like that. So those are the things I think the future is going to continue to hold for manufacturing and shops like us.
Oh, great. We appreciate so much, John, you giving us time. And now is, if you have a question, please put it in chat and Robert will go ahead and read that and stuff.
Should I stop sharing this, Bob? You want to take over?
No, you can leave it up. It'll work fine, just leaving it up.
Okay.
But yeah, if you go to the bottom of your screen, there's a chat box you can click on. Otherwise, if you go over to the right-hand side, there's one called Reactions. And the first one up, if you click on Reactions, is Raise Your Hand. So either one of those will work if you want to ask a question. And I would strongly encourage the high school students that are on this. If you got some questions, now's a great time to ask people like John, what's he looking for and all of that. So as we're waiting for a few questions to come in, John, can you elaborate a little bit more on things you would tell high school kids and maybe some college kids on what's really going to help you?
Yeah, so quite naturally, we're looking for machinists, but we're looking for a lot more. We're looking for IT people that like to work in IT, accountants, customer service, sales, ultimately. These are all positions within our company that we need help in right now today. And, getting young folks involved, really giving them an opportunity to stay close at home here in a location that they have grown up in. They don't have to move to the big city to get these opportunities. They're right here next door to them. And so we're continuing to look for all aspects of jobs that we need in order to operate our business.
Sure.
Yeah, and John, real quick, I know people are familiar, or many are, of your location there in Necedah, but you have another plant that's up in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, right?
Yeah, we do. It's somewhat similar to our operation here at Mitotec. It's more in the aerospace and defense market. They got some slightly different equipment, but yeah, we have another 55 employees up there that are doing that work also.
Terry, we have a question from David. This is probably more for Rock and Ron. Ron, David's asking, are there companies that make automation for products made out of lumber?
So the short answer is probably. There are companies that make automation or can make automation and integrate different components to make almost any product there is. It all comes down to your ability to specify what you want it to do and to locate those suppliers that fit your needs.
You know, it's funny.
As I'm watching the automation, I can see how a machine could be able to make my products automated. As I watch the machine move the parts and all that sort of thing. So.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be amazed, Dave. You go and look at the automation that they're working into the food industry, especially, you know, the plants that process pigs, cows, chickens. It is absolutely amazing. And of course, we heard through the pandemic all the difficulties they had in the processing plants, and to see the automation that's moving in there is phenomenal. And we're seeing automation using composite materials that do have wood in them, hemp, all kinds of other fibers. So yeah, it's pretty exciting future and stuff for manufacturing. Was there any more questions, Bob?
No, that was it. Hold on. Just got one that come in. Do you have any lights out processes, John?
Yes, we sure do. Anywhere from, we have about a 4-hour gap between our second and our first shift. We're quite often running equipment unattended at those times, or lights out, they call it. We can run, when our second shift actually isn't staffed as heavy as our first shift. So we'll have several machines that will set to run at the end of the first shift until they run out of material. It could be 3 or 4 hours running pretty much unattended.
Sure.
It's not only unattended, it's lightly attended. So again, through automation, you can have an operator run 3 or 4 or 5 machines when you get them to a point where they can run lightly attended or unattended or lights out.
Yeah. And I'll just add something to David's question on automation on lumber. We've got companies that make products that have automatic machines that deliver 4x8 sheets of products to milling machines for wood and cutting machines for wood. So yeah, there's plenty of automation out there for the lumber industry.
Yeah, and I wanted, before we went, I wanted to mention the non-contact part checking, to give you a chance to talk a little bit about that, as well as the real-time machine monitoring.
Yeah, I kind of breezed through those slides, but that's definitely the things that we do, and I consider automation. You know, ways to measure parts that are 10 or 20 times faster than the way we used to do it before non-contact measuring, video and other methods. And then of course the real-time machine monitoring, you got to know how much uptime your machines are providing you in order to improve it. You don't measure it, you can't improve it. So yeah, we've implemented that also, and we get reports daily, and actually texting alerts from our operators to our engineering staff that they need help, you know, to keep a machine running.
David, can you mute yourself?
Hey, David, there you go. Any other questions?
Yeah, we have one more,
Okay.
probably from a student asking how old do students need to be to start working in manufacturing, John?
Yeah, good question. Typically, you have to be 18 to run a piece of equipment, but there's lots of opportunities that you can do in manufacturing that isn't actually running equipment. Another thing that you can do in order to get on the equipment quicker is be involved in a youth apprenticeship. And I think with that and being 16 years old, you can be involved in do what 18-year-olds can do without the youth apprenticeship. So check with your guidance counselor or your tech teacher, and they can help you get arranged into doing that. But we have youth apprenticeships, several of them going right now and through the summer and all year long, really. We really appreciate their help.
Great. All right. Any other questions, Bob?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Well, we always want to
Go ahead.
keep to about 40 minutes and stuff, and we appreciate John Belmonte. We so much appreciate you being in the area and sharing with us on automation. Bob Oliver, thank you, and Ron, really appreciate your expertise in this industry, and we'll probably call you back again. So everyone, thanks for the lunch hour Zoomcast, and everyone be well. Thank you.
Gary, thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
Bye, Dave.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.